Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
There was a long-standing debate and tension and discussion in Jewish law and thought between the concepts of kavanah and keva. Keva is the fixed form of our blessings, of our tefillot, of our prayers. It is the not just the printed words, but the overall structure of how the service is put together. And of course, there is a huge emphasis on following that structure correctly. While the individual words, not the Psalms so much, but other parts of the service have been known to change and flex over time, the overall keva has remained very constant. And there are many who hold that that form is indeed the most important part. Kavanah, on the other hand, our intentionality, our directedness of our heart and our spirit, well, there are those who argue that if you don't have the full kavanah, if you're not completely there in that moment of the prayer, well, try better next time, but you still did the keva, you still did the form of the prayer, you have still completed the prayer, you get the check mark, you've done all right. And yet the rebuttal, of course, is, but you still have to work on that kavanah. You still need to find a way to improve that focus, that concentration, the mindfulness, to use a more modern term, during prayer. It shouldn't only be a recitation of words that is merely perfunctory and fulfilling that role. So let's do a little kavanah, because there are a number of concepts that we pray about that oftentimes our mind wanders and blurs the distinction between them. And yet, for these in particular, the kavanah is so important. I'm talking about the three-part concept of Eretz Yisrael, Am Yisrael, and Medinat Yisrael. Now, they all have the word Yisrael in them, so therefore they're all talking about Israel, but they all are a little different. Eretz Yisrael. Anyone want to venture a translation for Eretz Yisrael? The land of Israel, exactly, right? Eretz Zavat Chalav, the land of milk and honey. It is the land of Israel. Now, when we mean the land of Israel, we are talking about the land of Israel. We are talking about certain GPS coordinates, certain boundaries that were established during the time of Joshua, that had been given through the covenant with Abraham before. This is the land as it shows up on a map. And of course, it's not only the dirt, it is also the wildlife, it is the wonderful bounty of the agriculture of Israel, it is the way the weather washes across from the Mediterranean, it is all of the different styles and ecosystems that are found throughout that small country that are yet so diverse. This is Eretz Yisrael, and the Torah spends a great deal of time both praising Eretz Yisrael, but also telling us to protect Eretz Yisrael. For example, in this week's double portion of Behar, Bechukotai, we are introduced to more details of the law of Shemitah and the law of Yovel, the sabbatical and jubilee cycle, to allow the land to be fallow, to let the land rest, to not over-extract from its goodness, but to give it a chance to be at peace from all of our endeavors. And we are given in other places commands to protect it, to nurture it, to allow it to thrive in all of its beautiful natural wonder. Eretz Yisrael. So when we pray for Eretz Yisrael, we are praying for the land of Israel, that it be good, that it be fertile, that it be healthy, that it be rich in its diversity. And when we act on behalf of Eretz Yisrael, well, we support organizations and endeavors to protect the many species of Israel, to encourage good agriculture in Israel, to ensure that its wonderful environment will be there for thousands of years to come. Especially as we know, it had been neglected for so long until only very recently. Am Yisrael means?
People.
The people of
Israel.
Now this one is a little trickier in the modern world. I can tell you that if we went back 200 years and I told you Am Yisrael, everyone who was Jewish around the world would all easily, immediately recognize what we meant. We meant all the Jewish people around the world. Am Yisrael was detached from Eretz Yisrael. Am Yisrael was those Jews who lived in Sao Paulo, and those Jews who lived in Yemen, and those Jews who lived in Berlin, and those Jews who would live in Sydney, Australia. Am Yisrael was every Jewish person, wherever they might be. And when we focus on the mitzvot of Am Yisrael, we are focusing, our kavanah is hoping that they will be blessed with peace, that they will be blessed with prosperity, that they will have the joy of studying Torah, that they will be able to live in harmony wherever they might happen to be on the face of the earth. There are no GPS coordinates for Am Yisrael. There is no special dirt for Am Yisrael. You can be part of Am Yisrael wherever you are. You don't get a passport from Am Yisrael. You're Jewish, and that means wherever you call home, you are still part of the nation of Israel. The Jewish people, we might put that in English. And thus our kavanah, when we are saying a blessing on behalf of Am Yisrael, our kavanah should be for the entirety of the Jewish people, wherever they may be scattered, and we are scattered far and wide. Luckily in this generation, more by choice than by necessity. But still, there are Jews who are in desperate need, whether they still face political or social persecution, or whether they are just having a hard time with their own personal health, their own personal prosperity. We have blessings that are for all of the Jewish people everywhere, and our hearts should be big enough to include the entire globe for those blessings. And now the trickiest one, Medinat Yisrael.
State of Israel.
The state of Israel. Medinat Yisrael is what we would call back in my old political science days, the nation state of Israel, the political entity of Israel. It's that which actually issues passports, both to Jews and non-Jews alike who live within the borders of the state of Israel. It is not just the dirt of Israel, it is the institutions of the modern state of Israel that have existed now since 1948. It is the Knesset and the High Court. It is the police and the IDF. It is the hospitals. It is the schools. It is the beaches of Tel Aviv. It is the modern entity of Israel. Now, much of Am Yisrael lives in Medinat Yisrael. Right? The people of Israel, there is a large portion, millions of them, in fact, who live within the boundaries of Medinat Yisrael, and most of them live on top of Eretz Yisrael. So there is overlap, but whenever we are moved to prayer, we need to be sure that our kavanah is properly directed. It doesn't mean that it should be to the exclusion of the others, but we should still have in mind the proper structure for what we are praying about. At times like these, which if you have been following the news, you know that there has been renewed hostility and violence coming from Israel's neighbors, more rocket fires and attack. And more people put in harm and more loss of life. When we pray then for Israel, we need to be sure that we are praying in all three categories, that we are directing our kavanah for all of those elements. We pray for Eretz Israel, that this land that has been so amazing for thousands of years should maybe finally know peace, that it should be allowed to properly rest, and that shells and bullets not have to be taken from her soil and set to one side, that the bombs and mines no longer be part of her topography, that instead people be allowed to enjoy the blessings of this land unmolested. And when we bless for Am Yisrael, we hope that Jews around the world, and at the moment with the hostilities in Israel, a special focus on them as well, will know shalom, will know peace, that they will be able to sit quietly in their apartments, in their homes, to walk onto a bus without feeling fear or stress or anxiety, knowing that they are safe from beginning to end each day. And when we give a blessing for Medinat Yisrael, we are giving a blessing that the institutions of Israel be able to weather the current storm, be able to find their way forward towards peace, find a way that will bring blessing for all of the inhabitants of her land, find a way to establish justice, righteousness, compassion, all of the values of Judaism made real through that manifestation of the modern state of Israel. We are very blessed because for the first time in almost 2,000 years, when we give blessings for Israel, we can truly be giving blessings for Eretz Yisrael, Am Yisrael, and Medinat Yisrael. And that is something that for 2,000 years, most Jews never had the opportunity to bless with full kavanah. They could dream, but not bless. We must make sure we are not neglectful of that privilege, and that we turn our hearts, we turn our prayers, and we turn what actions we can from afar towards supporting Eretz Yisrael, Am Yisrael, and Medinat Yisrael. Shabbat Shalom.